Yeah, I guess like the farther you get away from the standard English language, the more difficult it becomes for people that aren't a part of that group to understand it. And I think that's also why a lot of Canadians would say that Irish English is maybe one of the hardest to understand because it does seem significantly farther than the standard variety than, let's say, American or Canadian or like English or something like that.
Right, yeah, you also, I guess, I should say you, but North Americans in general speak slower.
Yeah.
You enunciate better than us. We tend to mumble, we tend to speak quickly, and we tend to speak in a lot of slang to each other and use different words for a bunch of stuff that's not like the standard English word. Like this is a word we kind of made up. Like langer is a word in Cork, which can mean anything from like someone you're like great friends with and who's a sound guy to someone who's like, an idiot. You don't like him. It
Okay.
depends on
Okay.
like, it depends on how you pronounce the word and what the context is. So like,
Uh-huh.
I pity a person, who's coming to Ireland, trying to like bring someone from Cork now, for example. Like we've a lot of immigrants as well from Africa, like a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Somalians, a lot of people from Senegal, and they're there. They listen to someone talking about a langer, like for 10 minutes, and they're like, what is this? I've never heard of this word in my entire life, and they're there to learn English. Like it's not maybe the best place to learn it.
So like you said that you can tell where someone is from even within Cork. Like there's all these different accents. So what would your accent be categorized as?
I probably sound like I have a bit of a city accent, a bit like of the north side of the city, but not heavy into the north, and that's kind of where I'm from. But mine's like dulled down quite a bit. But like if you lived about 15 minutes away from me, 15 minutes north of the north side of Cork City, like different accent entirely. If it went like 30 minutes to the east, kind of a different accent. If it went like 2 hours to the west, like totally different accent. To the point where, like I've been there before 2 hours to the west. This small town called Goleen. It's one crossroads. It's got five pubs, one church, like a post office, and like a takeaway. And I went in there to ask a guy what time the bus comes. The guy owned the pub, and I had to ask the guy like three times because I live in the same county as him, like in the same kind of not. It wasn't. We were outside the city, but we're literally from the same place. And when you kind of ask someone a question and they answer you back and you're like, oh, sorry, I just wasn't listening. What did you say? And he said it again, like exactly the same. And I was like, oh, sorry, I just didn't hear you. And then he laughed at his friend who was at the pub, like having a pint or whatever. And they said the same thing again. And I was like, oh, great, thank you. No idea what he said. No idea what time the bus came. I just went back home. I just hadn't a clue what he said. So just to get like there's that amount of diversity within like a very small pocket in Ireland. And I yet to see that really in Canada or the US, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I mean there's way less accents. Like it's crazy when you look at like the I don't know if they're like continuums or whatever it is, but like the transition of accents through so many different countries in Europe and the UK, the diversity there is crazy. I mean, in Canada, how many accents do we really have? Like we have, our Newfies from Newfoundland that, have that kind of Irish tilt actually. And then we have everyone else. I mean, it's not quite that simple. I do think that people,
There's an
towards
Alberta
the
accent,
east,
though, isn't there? There's
there's
definitely.
the Alberta boy accent or whatever you see on like TikTok. And yeah, I mean, people,
Hey,
people do
bud.
talk like that.
What's up,
Hey,
bud?
bud. Yeah. Out for a rip, are you, bud? Oh, geez. Like, yeah, there's all that. Yeah, there's that stuff. And I can hear a little bit of a difference with like people from Ontario. The way that they say the R is different. But like, we're talking about like, a really minor difference. Like in Ireland, it would be much more extreme, obviously.
Yeah, like it's something I think about when I come here. I'm like, yeah, geez, I can guess where you're from in Cork from the sound of your accent, or even Dublin as well. Like Dublin's got distinct north, south, and then different pockets. You can kind of tell where they're from, which is I think kind of cool. I mean, it gives a sense of like how tightly knit the communities were or must have been to all kind of start sounding the same and different than the community that's like right next to you. I don't think you get the same kind of feeling here. I guess that's one of the big differences I noticed from Ireland and here is like we're like a very old country and we've been pretty much around the same areas for like thousands of years. We haven't really moved much. Whereas North America, like Canada and the US, are really young countries in like the grander scheme of things. And
Yeah.
so that's why a lot of people just kind of sound the same because you had access to like communications when you became countries, whether it's like letters or whatever, spoken speech. We didn't really have as much access to that. So
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I guess I didn't really think about that way. But like, if you don't have exposure to the town next door, that's where that accent is going to really develop and become its own unique thing, right? If everyone's talking to each other all the time, you're going to get like a more neutral accent.
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed that when I came here, I was quite like I didn't really know many Irish people in Ottawa. As I said, there is not many Irish people when I moved there. And my one of my bosses, my agents I worked for, was from Quebec, like a town up north. And he couldn't understand me for the first 2 months. So I actually started getting quite shy. Like, he would ask me to print something off. Like he'd be like, "Oh, Connor, can you like print off this piece of paper, in a French accent?" And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, grand, no bother, yeah, I'll do that right away." Wouldn't he like wouldn't click to what I like that I had said yes. I just said it in an Irish way,
Right.
And he would go in to my other boss who like could understand me better, and he goes, "I asked Connor to print this off. Can you just make sure he does it? Because he said something to me and I don't know what he said." And so my accent ended up flattening like a ton, became very, very flat. I spoke like this most of the time. I was trying to enunciate myself better. I would slow down and I would speak like slower. And I'd say words like, "I'll do a pint." And I'd say things like, "Where's the garbage?" And I'd say, like, I really did, to the point where I was like, "Oh, I don't feel like myself." And then I tried to kind of let myself out a little bit more.
So have you found a compromise in the middle now where you feel like yourself, but you're still, understood?
Do I realized that there's a ton of value in the way I sound and what I say and how I say it. And I think it's actually invaluable. So I don't like flattening an accent just so someone can understand you a bit clearer. I would rather explain the same thing to them the way I say it about 5 times, but still remain myself rather than flatten it out totally for them,
Yeah.
just to be that person. And it took me a while to realize that, to be honest, because I was always trying to blend in. I was trying to do well. I was trying to, not be the person that stood out too much because I thought that was a bad thing. But I think standing out when you're being yourself, when you're being authentic and you're being kind, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think people love like a little bit of difference. People like when people sound a bit different and they can learn something else. We don't just eat potatoes, Ty. We actually we have carrots. We have
You have multiple types of potatoes.
Yeah, we do have multiple types. It was Canadian Thanksgiving. I had 3 types of potatoes. And I loved them. It was mashed, roast, and scalloped. And they're absolutely delicious. But we've really good beef in Ireland. We've good quality meats and chicken, and we have really nice stew. We have cottage pie, we have shepherd's pie. We have bacon, we have rashers, we have breakfast rolls, we've full all types of stuff. So I think those sort of things are that in particular, but the accent I think is so important. I think it's really important to remain yourself. Like you could go to the West Coast and you could be there for, I'm not sure how long you've been there, but you could be there for 10 years and you might lose all the little like Alberta twang you had. And you kind of end up blending into the place and you're kind of like, well, no, like I'm not exactly that person. I know where I was born, I know where I was raised, like I was. And I think I need to remember that, because otherwise if I go back, I won't know who I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another comparison, I know I'm bringing it back to the US a lot, but they have what they call a melting pot in the US in terms of diversity, right? So you come from a different country, you go to the US and you get melted down and become an American, right? Whatever that means, you're an American. And in Canada, we have what some people refer to as a mosaic. So as opposed to multiple colors coming together and getting blended down into something Canadian, we have this quilt of patchwork, colors and races and accents and food, and it can be unique and it can be standalone and it can be Canadian at the same time, and so I think that's a good way of looking at it. Why should you change who you are if you're in a different place? Why can't we as Canadians benefit from your experience as, someone from Ireland, right? And I love that about Canada.